Welcome back, New Jersey wrestling fans, to On the Mat, presented by the Mat Pack. Mark Trible and Brett Fetty going to walk you through a little bit what happened last week and start gearing up for the team playoffs right after this. And here we are. Brett, let's pick up right where we left off last week. We were looking forward to some big matchups across the state. First one, speaking of state, talk about the state liners of Phillipsburg. They wrestled Hanover Park. They won 33-26. Big win for Phillipsburg. They got 3 tech falls from Travis Jones at 120 pounds, Josh Ramos at 160, Cody Harrison at 145, and a big pin at 182 from Lance Whistling. This is a good win for Phillipsburg.
I think I predicted this.
You did?
Yeah, it was a very good win for PHILLIPSBURg. They want to build momentum going into the playoffs up in a couple of weeks, but they said PHILLIPSBURg needed to get back on track, and they did have some big wins. And Broaders, too, which who is every match, seen big matches either come down to him or make, but he did come through with a win. And, yeah, they won 33-26, and they got another big match this Saturday night.
Yeah, they're going to wrestle Southern this week, another big one between perennial teams who are kind of always in that top 15, 10 area here in New Jersey. You know, I was thinking about it. Hanover Park has had such a good season, and like you said, Phillipsburg really needed to rebound. At this point in the year, you kind of want to see where your team's at when you're getting ready for the postseason. So to get that one under their belt, feel a little bit better, I'm sure the fans were crazy as well.
And this is another PHILLIPSBURg team with balance. There's no household name. Really, I don't know. They may not have a state place winner, but they may. But there's really, right now, they don't have anyone that jumps out at you, but they're just always there. And it just speaks to the whole program and what they've been able to do for the last 30 years. And that's a program win. When I picked that match last week, I didn't look at the individual matchups, but I just, coming off a loss, I wouldn't, you're looking at programs, I wouldn't think they were going to lose to Huntington Central and then lose to Hanover Park.
Yeah, and having 2 teams that are top 10 in the state, you don't expect to come away with 3 tech falls. I mean, that shows the depth of their lineup, that they can get those points and get the 5 bonus. Sometimes you catch a kid, you pin them. To get 3 tech falls, pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's what, when you tech fall a wrestler, that usually is not by accident. You can't be caught. You may be only caught like 5 times on your back, but it's just, it is dominating when you do tech fall somebody. And I know some wrestlers who rather get a tech fall than a pin, and because they want to dominate somebody. But listen, they've been dominant for years. They've been doing it for years, and they have the winning formula.
That's what PHILLIPSBURg does. And then another big one we had was Watchung Hills and North Hunterdon. These 2 teams were tied for number 20 in the New Jersey Wrestling Writers Association poll last weekend. It really wasn't that close. They certainly weren't anywhere close to being tied on the mat. Watchung Hills wins 48-16. They won 11 bouts.
That's 11 bouts. That's a lot. And you try to put the rankings as best you can, but it's hard with wrestling because there's so many matchup differences and weight variances. But 48-16 is a butt whooping.
Yeah, sometimes you'll catch teams who kind of have matchup problems with each other, or they might be strong at the same spot. And if you can win those, then if you have strengths elsewhere, you can kind of pull away in terms of the final score. But 11 bouts leaves no doubt about it. It's just a dominant effort. Watchung Hills jump back up. I believe they're 15 in the poll this week, so everybody was pretty impressed with that.
And it's a team to keep on watching.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Southern. We mentioned them. Another perennial team that usually is up there is South
Usually,
Plainfield.
last year I know they had a problem with the hydration, but I believe they're hydrated this year.
Yeah, they got some hydration this year. And Southern beats South Plainfield 29-26. They start off the match. They get wins from 38-82. They're up 20-0 to start the match. And South Plainfield comes back, need a pin in the last bout to at least tie it. Didn't get it.
South Plainfield matches, and even in Southern, there's drama.
Yeah.
And it's drama, I'm not saying in a bad way, but there's drama on the mat because there's always some tight and hotly contested matches, but it's good wrestling. And these teams, they fought. And Southern came out on top 29-26. I know South Plainfield's not having the year that I'm sure that they felt they could have, but Southern, that was a pretty impressive win. Southern, to me, reminds me of it's like a Hunter Central. They're always there.
Right.
They broke through twice to get 2 state titles. I think Hunter Central has one. But for them to beat a PHILLIPSBURG, which Hunter Central did, or Brick Memorial, which was holding the Southern back. Mm-hmm. Now we got 5 groups, so that's probably, who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of years. But Southern is a program now that they're going to be able to compete for state titles, but now they got Hal. So Hal's able to emerge. So this Shore Conference it's a tough conference. It's always been pretty tough. Now it was really tough for a while. It took a lull. Now it's on the way back.
Yeah, and also we had a shift. Last year, Southern and Hal were both in South Jersey Group 5. This year, Hal is with Hunterdon Central and Central Jersey Group 5. So Southern is one of those teams, and we're going to mention it a little bit at the end of the show, that in South Jersey Group 5, there's going to be a real battle to see who advances into that state semifinal.
And I know the state wants to have the best teams at the end, and they want to have the best individual wrestlers at the end, and that's why they redid the districts, and that's why they also redo groups. They do team groups. And they did, I think it passed where they're going to do every 2 years, so they're not going to switch them every year. But when you hear Southern, Hunter Central, or Southern and whoever they were wrestling in the South or Hal, you don't think of them as South teams.
Right.
So when I coached, I remember wrestling Southern in the South, and it just didn't make sense. But there's not many big schools in the South, so they would stick some of the Shore Conference teams in the South. But I think they're trying to get to a point where they have the best teams wrestling. It's not always easy because wrestling's just different, because you can have some Group 1 schools jump up because they have a pretty good lineup. But big schools here, I know they had to have 5 groups. I don't like 5 groups. I think it's taken away from the sport. So we'll see down the line how they're going to how this will all play out.
Absolutely, Brett. And then the Jack Welch duels at Morristown High School had a potpourri of teams from all over the state, had a good number of South Jersey teams represented as well. I was there, Brett, and the first thing that stood out to me is Del Barton's just on another level right now. We know, and we mentioned on this show before, they're the second team behind Bergen Catholic, who's one of the best in the nation. Del Barton wins. They win the championship over a Long Branch team that's ranked in the top 20, 62-6. Long Branch had a pin, and that was it. About as dominating an effort as you could see in one of these events. Del Barton, right now, just look at that lineup.
And they have their 2 wrestlers, Straczynski and Gombeck is back. And Straczynski was a kid who he was tough, and he's a legit wrestler. Beat Pondaldafo from Cherokee earlier in the day. So getting those kids back, that's a big boost.
Yeah.
And they pretty much just wiped them out with the competition. Yeah,
they were unbelievable. Pat Glory did what he does. I know he tech-falled a kid who hadn't been tech-falled in his high school career, in Colin Wickramaratna, and I talked to him about it. He said, he majored me before a couple years ago, and to see him here, I thought maybe it would be the same type of match, but too much technique, too strong. I don't think there's enough we could say about Pat Glory. We talk about him every week, but he's unbelievable.
And he wrestles in every tournament. He wins every tournament. I think his last tournament that he had to win, big tournament, was a state title. I think that was the last thing. Now he has a state title. So, this is all gravy for him this year. Now he's just going to go out and tech fall kids that he couldn't tech fall earlier in his career. Yeah,
a couple other notes from that tournament. Kingsway, South Jersey, they jumped into number 20 in the poll this week in the statewide poll. By beating Cherokee, a team that had beat them later in December. They lost to them by 9. They had 2 guys out of the lineup. They ended up winning by 1 this time around. It came down to the last bout. Mackenzie Bell, a sophomore 113-pounder, he gets the tech fall to win it. And that was an exciting bout. And these 2 teams, an exciting match. And these 2 teams, it seems like, will probably find a way to see each other again in the playoffs.
They could meet down the line. This is a big match. It's for matchups. They did have some of the same matchups as in the earlier bout. Kingsway had Rosano back at 106. Rosano didn't win, but he only got decision. But the big one was Cheney Kinner overturning his loss earlier to Cooper Pondaldafo, who's a freshman. But Kinner beat him this time after he beat him 4-0, and he lost him 7-2. So Cheney Kinner was ready to wrestle. Then Kingsway had Kevin Pandorf back, and he wasn't in the first match, and he won his match at 160. And another match that kind of went overlooked was Almanzar from Kingsway was pinned by Noble in the first bout, but then beats him 12-6. So that's just, I guess with high school wrestling, it's tough to be able to predict some of these matches, and I guess that's what makes it exciting. But it'll be exciting to see what's going to happen when they wrestle again. But to me, if I think they wrestle again, I think Kingsway's the better team. I think Kingsway's probably maybe will beat them by more than one next time. But that's just my prediction. So,
well, if they can get Colin Wexler back in the lineup, and
concussion,
you know, the other thing is that Kingsway lost to Long Branch barely in the semifinals, or else they would have wrestled Del Barton. But you know, they wrestled well. It was close. They beat Newton to get to that winner's bracket, and Newton was a team that is ranked. I believe they still are. They're right on the outside looking in. So Kingsway, things seem to be clicking into gear for Coach Mike Barickian.
Here's the thing with Kingsway. Kingsway has some freshmen on their team with probably about 6 or 7 losses.
Yeah.
But Finn McFadden may be one of the best freshmen in the state at that weight, and he lost to Wick Maratma 4-1 first time. This time he loses a tiebreaker, and that's a state place winner. And you're a freshman losing to a state place winner, so it's kind of like he's gaining some steam. And Kingsway's another one. Their schedule's pretty tough.
Pretty tough. Yeah.
It's going to prepare you for that run at the end of the year. It's going to be interesting to see how it all comes together. But real quick about Kingsway's middle school team, if they can keep those kids home and not have them go to Paulsboro, they will be tough, and they may be the best team in South Jersey come in a couple of years. But you know, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But they do. Their midget program's impressive. I think Hal's right there with them. But they did beat Hal, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, they're set up for the long haul. Other things: Joe Casey, Boundbrook beat Tim Fitzpatrick, a guy who placed at Beast of the East. Beat him 7-4. I know that Fitzpatrick wasn't too sure what the score was late. He ends up shooting to try to get a takedown when he didn't need one. I believe he was winning. He gets in a scramble, ends up losing. Brett, how do you make sure your wrestlers on the mat know what the score is?
You try to play a match out before they step on the mat. It's called a game plan, and it's usually one coach that wrestler will be able to listen to, because sometimes you go to a wrestle match and you hear a million coaches yelling, and it's
parents in the stands yelling, everybody yelling.
You got to tell them. You block it out. You just shake your head to them, but then you look at your coach and listen to your coach. But always kind of have that in the back of your mind of, all right, who am I listening to? And we always had it set before you went on the mat. This is where you look for your decision when they did the flip after the first period. And you know, if you need to let kids up, take them down for bonus points, and you try to walk them through the match as best you can. Right. But yeah, to not know, you're wrestling Joe Casey from Boundbrook, state place winner, and I'm guessing maybe, you know, Fitzpatrick is down by 1 or no, up by. To me, I that would fall on coaching. I mean, they're still high school kids, and I mean they're on the mat, but you know, the coach maybe has to yell a little louder.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was a wild scene.
Yeah, and Fitzpatrick is tough. He was state place winner. I think he beat Marina last year in states for 7th place, Santino Marina. But Holy Spirit has a couple decent wrestlers, but now they just need someone to yell at them a little louder.
Yeah. Also last week I saw Paulsboro. We talked about them. They beat Haddonfield. You said Haddonfield might only win 2 bouts. That's exactly what happened. Paulsboro wins 59-9. St. Augustine gets 3 nice wins down South Jersey with Gateway, Clearview, and Eastern. They kind of roll through there. And where you were an assistant coach last year, Brett, a little oddity down at Pennsville, they beat Woodstown on Criteria H. And tell everybody what Criteria H is.
Criteria H is most shoes tied. No, it's first point scored. And sometimes, and I know some referees won't admit this, but sometimes we'll get down to criteria that they cannot honor because the home book is the book they use, and I know some of the managers don't. For first point, you have to circle. Some managers don't do that. I've been a part of that, but the manager of Pennsville, her name is Kaylee Gandy, and she is on top of everything. She knows more wrestling than most of the coaches in South Jersey. And the funny thing is, there's a little house divided though, because her brother is the 113-pounder of Woodstown. So I'm not sure if they were happy or sad or didn't know what to think in the Gandy household, but good for Kelly Gandy and good for Pennsville. They're having a great year. They have a pretty solid balance lineup. But I want to say, Cody Wood, their heavyweight, has a chance to be a state champ. He was one of the greatest kids I could ever coach, and he's someone, he listens. He's a hard worker. So it'll be interesting to see. I know heavyweight's tough to predict. Every year there's someone that jumps out.
Yeah.
It's not like one of these middleweights where the same kids have been there for 4 years. But there's a couple kids from South Jersey who can make noise at heavyweight. They may wrestle this weekend. I think Pennsville does wrestle Camden, so you might see Antonio Mercado, two of the top heavyweights in South Jersey, go at it. But it's just Pennsville's having a great year, and them in Woodstown, unfortunately, are in Group 1, so they hopefully can make the South Jersey finals, and for them, that's good. That's a great season.
Yeah, Brett. When we come back, we're going to take a look at what's going on next week. We got some individual tournaments, and we'll kind of mention how those work and what we're looking for from them, if we even like them, if we like the idea of them. So hang tight. We'll be back after this with On the Mat.
Hi, I'm Tommy Green, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. When I was in high school, it was very important to me to show scouts what I could do. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the Sports Fan Base Network. If you're a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY-EASY.
Hi, I'm Marty Bystrom, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. In my experience in Major League Baseball, I know how important it is for high school athletes to gain exposure. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the Sports Fan Base Network. If you are a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY-EASY.
All right, now we're going to take a look at some of the matchups we have next week with these individual tournaments. The first one we're going to mention here, it runs on Friday and Saturdays, the Greater Middlesex Conference Tournament. This is a tournament, and all these are tournaments where it's going to be an individual tournament just with the teams inside the conference. It looks like with the Greater Middlesex Tournament, the best finals will probably be at 160 and 220. So 160, we got Piscataway's Michael Petit against Colonia's John Poznansky possibly in the final. Petit's unbeaten. Poznansky's lost 3 times, twice at the Beast of the East, once to Walls. Robert Kennard is obviously very, very good. And at 220, South Plainfield, Zach Del Vecchio, a name many are familiar with around the state. He's been great. Could face Woodbridge's Nick Nyers, and both of those are undefeated. So some of these big matchups, you could see them down the line too.
And this is what we talked about last episode, where it's a tournament, teams are involved, but it's an individual tournament, and there's a better chance that you see better wrestling. Because if it's a dual meet style, what happens is sometimes those kids won't wrestle. Now they're in the same weight class, they'll wrestle, and it's better for the kids. What they used to do is have these conference tournaments right up against the playoffs, and I know the Shore Conference was famous for this. They would schedule the big schools against the big schools because it would carry PowerPoints. Right. And now, before this individual conference tournament took place, the state did away with the repeat on the PowerPoint, so you can only use your best outcome for PowerPoints. But as far as seeing the best wrestling, this is the way to do it, because you have some good kids, you have good teams, and you don't have to worry about they wrestle not. So if they keep winning, they're going to meet the bracket, and 160 that's pretty tough. It's going to be I would say Kennard, or no, Kennard's not even in it, but
I would say Petit.
Petit,
right? Unbeaten.
So if you're in the Greater Middlesex area, hey, you want to check out that conference tournament.
Yeah, and another one to look at there, South Plainfield, Joe Heilman, 126. He's going for his 4th consecutive championship in this tournament, and he will wrestle at North Carolina next year. I mean, he's been spectacular. He placed 3rd at States last year. Beat Edison Echeverria, I believe, of Delsey in the 3rd place match.
Yeah, he's tough, and he's growing into the 126. I know he was small when he came into high school, but he was, like his older brother who does wrestle at North Carolina is ranked now. Troy Heilman, they're just a wrestling family. They're just tough, hard-nosed kids. And it'll be interesting to see how Heilman faces up, who he faces upstate and how he does, because he's in a loaded weight class.
Yeah.
But he's right there with them, and he's scratching the surface. And same thing with brother. Brother was, brother. I don't believe his brother ever won a state title. I think it was second, maybe 2 or 3 times. But just tough kids from South Plainfield.
Yeah, and one thing I like about these individual tournaments is that a guy like Heilman, as much as it would mean to him to win it for the 4th time, he's got all these criteria points that he's built up, and there are so many kids that are going to be taking aim, not just to beat him for the sake to say that you beat him, but to get those criteria points for seeding down the line.
Yes, and seeding at states is, I don't know who sits in that anymore, but man, it's with 4 wrestlers from each region going to states. There's a lot of it's a lot of definite matches that you're going to see if you're head to head. But wow, there is a lot of seeding at stake right now.
Yeah, sure. And the other thing is the Shore Conference is going to have this tournament again, or for the first time. Here's the talking point about this. Do you feel like South Jersey maybe should do these tournaments?
Tri-County did have this before, and they set it up this style. They did get away from it. I'm not sure why, but I would like to see it because there's some boundaries that aren't crossed. Wrestlers, sometimes people get set in their schedules. The best teams in South Jersey don't always meet. Like Camden Catholic, and I know they're not in the same conference, but Camden Catholic and Paulsboro wrestling. That'd probably be something that you'd want to see.
Yeah, it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think maybe they should get on board and try to see the best wrestling that you possibly can. Because South Jersey wrestling, it's tough. It's a little top heavy, but top to bottom, we're pretty far behind North Jersey. And I think part of that is they wrestle the top competition. And you're only going to get better wrestling the top competition. So you have a great record, but what does that do at the end of the season for you? Nothing. It's going to it may get you into states for Friday night, but you may not be coming back Saturday.
Yeah, and that's something we touched on with Kingsway. They and St. Augustine's another team that in South Jersey, they will wrestle anybody at any place, anytime. And because of that, they get stronger as the year goes on. Their individual wrestlers are certainly ready when it comes time for the individual postseason. I look at it and say, 2 days, it's a lot, and you're going to end up getting rid of some of your some good dual meets or some good quads, especially comes time here at the end of the weekend, the PowerPoint cutoff. Right now might not be the best time to have it, maybe in the beginning of January. There's so many tournaments at the end of December, you really can't interfere with that. So I think finding a good time for it really is the hard part.
Yeah, that's the key, finding a good time for it. But now with the matches, with 30 is the cutoff, you should be able to find a time to be able to wrestle and make it happen if you want to do it in a dual meet style. But this is where I think South Jersey's missing the boat a little bit, where the fans would love to see this. They would love to see Paulsboro wrestle a Camden Catholic, or maybe go up north and wrestle one of those teams, or Paulsboro Kingsway again. I'd like to see that. But you know what? I'm not saying that they're ducking anyone, because Paulsboro certainly is not someone that ducks one. I would just like to see them. I would just like to see it for South Jersey's sake.
Yeah, you just want to see all the best wrestlers. And, the other thing about this too, Brett, is that with the way districts were set up before they changed it all last year, such a big deal at RCGC, right? Everybody would go down there. Paulsboro had their contingent. You had Clearview was there. It was all these schools that were so used to seeing each other and wrestling against each other. It was some of the best around. Well, since they changed that, those regional rivalries in terms of individual wrestling have gone by the wayside. So you might not see those teams wrestle against each other individually. Something like that might bring that back.
What happened was, and you're exactly right, it could bring that back. But I know the state wanted to get away from the traditional districts and the traditional regions just because of the imbalance.
Yeah, some of them were loaded.
And it was Region 1, Region 4, 6, and 8 were the ones that carried all the wrestlers to states.
Yep.
And then the other ones, it didn't work. I remember, because when I was competing with Super Regions was 7 and 8. I think Region 8 might have won 70% of those matches. And also it was I believe, 5 and 6, and Region 6 used to just dominate. But I think it takes away from all those, the rivalries, natural rivalries at districts. District 29 at one point used to have the top 5 teams in South Jersey. And then, or you go to District 30 or 31 and you need 1 or 2 teams. But they did have to break up District 29 because it was
too loaded.
Too loaded. But you know what? You just have to create new rivalries and people are going to have to put more miles on their cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a comment here from Kim McCormick Rodriguez. Says she enjoys watching the show. Thanks for watching, Kim. Her son, Antonio Rodriguez, played 3rd in the state a couple years back from Buna. Always a strong program
Chiefs.
at Buna.
I remember
Coach
Rodriguez.
Maxwell. Which heavyweights this year are looking good? And, I can only speak to South Jersey necessarily with this. And like you said, there's always some that kind of pop up here and there. Certainly Mercado from Camden. Certainly Dunn. In terms of
Bryce Dunn. Cody Wood beat
Cumberland.
Bryce Dunn 1-0 a couple weeks ago. And this weight class is unique because there was not one state place winner returning at heavyweight.
Right.
Drew Flynn, I know, is at the top of some of the rankings from Pompton Lakes, I believe. And after him, I know Cody Wood is up there. I know Mercado's up there. Mercado does have a loss this year. But heavyweight, it's tough to predict. But I do remember Rodriguez. I remember he was region champ. I think he beat Randall in the finals, I believe, from Paulsboro. But he was tough, being the Chiefs.
Yeah, a couple other names to toss out there as you look at Max Sullivan, Cherry Hill West. Matt Maloney from Kingsway got a big win last night against Deshaun Alexander from Overbrook. Don't forget about Lamar Price at Sterling. He's also had a great year as well. Devontae Vivian, Palmyra. Heavyweight's always one of the most fun ones to watch when it comes individual time. Another comment from Mike Ahern, somebody we're both pretty familiar with. You want to fix wrestling to go to 11 weights and matches only on Wednesdays and Saturdays so you can get back to coaching more. With 11 weights, you would bring back JV duels and give kids a chance to develop and not thrown to the wolves. I've got to agree with this. I know it's a sticking point that many of us have who've been around the sport a little bit have begged for them to lower the weight classes. And to be able to get some good JV matches would be great for some of these kids because you're right. I mean, sometimes you have to see a kid get thrown out and just get pinned in 30 seconds. How does that help?
It doesn't. It doesn't at all. And I know it's about getting more kids to compete, more kids out for the sport. But what does it really do? Nothing. It's like for the sport. It's gonna hurt the sport. It's gonna cause the sport just to be so bad where at times it's gonna be hard to fill teams for these schools. And with 14 weight classes, it's bad. And you may create some JV matches, but I know we're in a world of instant gratification. And I would say 15 years ago, sometimes a freshman, he was a good freshman, he would sit, he wouldn't wrestle.
Right.
He'd sit behind the varsity guy. And they learned. But now, hey, kid doesn't make varsity, he's transferring or he's moving.
Yeah,
he's going somewhere. So I think Mike Ahern he's on to something, and I think the Hearn should keep at it with the National Federation, and hopefully we can make some headway here and bring the sport back to be competitive. And we need to get rid of 5 groups in states because it's ridiculous.
Absolutely, and Mike Ahern certainly knows what he's talking about. He's been around the sport a long time and has garnered a lot of respect for his work in the sport. And the other thing is, some of these freshmen who come in, they might not be as far along as these guys who've been on the circuit. You talk about Cooper Ponte-Landolfo. I mean, he's a superstar freshman. Matt Holke at Highland. These are freshmen who expect to get close to placing at states or placing at states as freshmen. The ones who aren't at that level, sometimes that can be intimidating. They don't want to come out for the sport because they're so far behind when really they have 4 years to mature.
And another thing about wrestling is it's kind of 2 different sports. So lower weights and upper weights, it is 2 different sports. Because if you come in with inexperience at a lower weight, you're gonna take a beating. But not necessarily if you're an upper weight. You may take a beating, but there's more opportunity to compete because if you're an athlete, you can pick it up and pick up the moves. And you don't need as much experience if you're an upper weight, but if you're a lower weight just starting out in a sport like wrestling, it is tough. But that's why there's a great divide. But I think if you shorten the weight classes, you'd probably get more competition and you'd weed out some of these bad wrestlers who they're not learning anything. They're not in nothing. They're not going to get better by getting thrown out there for 4 years.
Absolutely. And you know what? And we talked about how the expansion of the groups is probably too much. We're going to take a look at those groups. We're going to look at the PowerPoint leaders in each of the groups when we come back and look forward to what's going on next week. So hang tight. We'll be back with On the Mat, presented by the Mat Pack.
Hey, you.
Who, me?
Yes, you. You like pro sports?
Yeah,
You like college sports?
of course.
You like high school sports?
I guess.
Maybe you just don't know much about them.
Hey, voice in the sky.
Huh?
Where can I go to learn more about Philadelphia area high school athletics?
Just watch Varsity Voice every Wednesday on Facebook Live at 7 p.m.
Now it's time to take a look forward to next week and beyond, and hopefully get an understanding of where these playoff matchups are going to sit. Next week we'll go through all the playoff matchups, and we'll be able to take a look section by section who we expect to push through and who might be ripe for an upset. So let's take a look first off at some of the meets we have coming up. We'll start on Friday. A pretty solid one in South Jersey with Camden Catholic Eastern and Cherry Hill West, who's undefeated coming into this week. They're going to wrestle at East, but, I mean, seeing Camden Catholic, Eastern, Cherry Hill West, those are three teams that are ranked in South Jersey.
So the Seymour family is going to try to battle with Eastern and Camden Catholic. And I tell you what, Cherry Hill West always puts out a pretty good product.
Yeah,
and the Seymour
definitely.
family is usually up to the task, and they get the most out of their athletes, and I know they lose a bunch to Camden Catholic. But it's good to see them back. It's good to see them doing well, but we'll see how they stack up on Friday.
Yeah, Eastern's an interesting team, too. I mean, they've got some nice wins. They've got some rough losses as well. I mean, they've only lost to three very good teams in St. Augustine, Cherokee, and I forget who else they lost to, but I know it was close. Anyway, the Vikings have a nice program. I like TJ Frannon, who's at 195. He's solid. Cherry Hill West's got John Howe down low, who's solid, and Sullivan up top, Serrano up top. Camden Catholic is obviously the real deal, and they're going to be wrestling against Cherokee also on Wednesday, which will be a good one. And elsewhere in the state, Kittatinny is a perennial team here in Group 1, and they're going to wrestle Newton. Newton coming off a loss to Kingsway at the Jack Welch Duels. Should be a good one.
Should be a good match. Yeah, they're perennial teams and wrestling each other, which is good. And so we got the big one on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday is the big one. We got Southern at Phillipsburg. You know, two teams that we mentioned it before. You just expect them to be there at the end of the day. Two teams that scheduled this. They're not in the same group. Phillipsburg's in Group 4. Southern's in Group 5. But these are the type of matches that they know they need when it comes to the team playoffs. When you get to that sectional final or to the state semifinal, state final.
It was one of the best matches I ever witnessed in person. Was about 4 years ago at the group finals. This is back when they only, I believe, had 4 groups. But they wrestled, Peaburg Southern wrestled in the state finals. And Peaburg won the match because there was a freshman wrestling a returning district champion was losing, and he pinned him. Mellis ended up getting a big pin, and that was the difference in the whole match right there between Southern and Peaburg. But that's what Peaburg does. Peaburg pulls a mat out that they're not supposed to win, and they do win. Paulsburg does the same thing. And it's just something that it goes for the perseverance. It's that program that does it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Peaburg Southern. I'm expecting Peaburg to win just because of the program, and I'm not sure what to make of Southern yet. I'm really not. And I say that because I know last year it was a rough ending, but I haven't seen them this year. I know they're always tough. Stout does a good job getting his wrestlers prepared, and he loves the competition. He loves the banner with the fans too. But it should be a good match. It's up in the new pit in which I don't even think they call it the pit anymore. It might be the crater. But I would like to go see a match up there, but they did say it's so much different than the pit. And I've been up to the pit before. I saw him wrestle Boundbrook up there, and it's such a great atmosphere. I'm not sure why that they would make him wrestle in another gym. It's a big gym, and what that does, it kind of takes it in it. Wrestling thrives on that intimacy where people are close, yelling. Sure. You can smell the guy's beard in the first row, and the people save seats, and it's just to do that. I'm still I was kind of confused when they did that. I understand schools don't honor tradition like they used to, but I guess they're going to wrestle in the new crater, so it'll be a good match to see how Stout does with the fans up in the crater.
Yeah, there was also the infamous story about somebody throwing a shoe on the mat at Phillipsburg, which happened at the pit. Certainly, it stings to see these treasures, these old gyms.
Hey, you got to use your home. It's a home advantage.
Yeah, that's right. I think it worked for the Eagles on Sunday. Let's talk also, we got a couple nice ones in South Jersey. St. Peter's Prep, this is a team that's ranked number 14 in the state right now. They're going to go down to St. Augustine. Delsey will be there. Holy Cross has a couple nice kids. They'll be there as well. St. Augustine Delsey has always been close.
Yeah.
You expect that to be close? And obviously you would expect St. Peter's Prep to probably win out there, huh?
Both? Yes, I would. And Delsey is coming. They're kind of getting their lineup back in order. But there's no Echeverry in that lineup. And I don't know how they're going to do against St. Augustine. If St. Augustine has their lineup ready, they could win.
Yeah.
And I think they probably will win if the kids go and they're wrestling the right weights. I think they could win.
Yeah, St. Augustine's been without Bodner recently, Brett Bodner.
Yeah,
if he's back in the lineup, that certainly changes things around. They have a lot of balance. You got to think that Billy Ward and his team will be certainly ready, and they always like hosting stuff like this. This has been kind of an annual thing. It's usually not St. Peter's Prep who is in it, but it's usually Holy Cross, Delsey, and St. Augustine and another one. But Delsey and St. Augustine, Delsey's won. They haven't beaten them by more than 10 points, but they've won the last 3 meetings. They're not far away from each other, same area, so always riveting there. Another one I want to talk about quickly, and then we'll get to the groups, is we got Rancocas Valley, Hunterdon Central, and Delran at Kingsway this weekend. RV's got some 4 or 5 state-level kids. Kingsway certainly with Quinn Kinner, Cheney Kinner, Rosano, Mackenzie Bell, McFadden, some really, really talented wrestlers there. And Hunterdon Central is a team that, they're in there with Howe, Group 5, in terms of Central Jersey.
I would like to see the Hunterdon Central Kingsway match.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of tough young kids there. That would be a great match. I would say those 2 teams are just a notch above a Delran and a RV. RV's tough, and Rancocas Valley has some tough kids. I don't think they have enough to compete with Kingsway. I think beat them pretty good earlier in the year. But against Hunterdon Central Kingsway, that should be a good match. I would think Hunterdon Central is a favorite there. But we'll see what happens.
Well, RV's lost once this year. It was last weekend in Williamstown by 3 in the last bout. And Williamstown's a team that
bounce.
I saw them last week against Highland. They were spectacular. Brian Martin at 195. I mean, that's a kid that hasn't really wrestled in 2 years. He had some broken thumbs, and he was remarkable. He beat Devin Starks at 220. He's a kid who I would expect to maybe, if he can get acclimated to individual postseason wrestling, play in states.
He could play in states. Right now, at that weight, he's looking pretty good. And Starks is a kid everybody has up there placing in states. It was a weird match. It was kind of like a pin or be pin, but with the new rule came into factor, where the knee out of bounds, which it's tough for the referees to call. The referees have a hard enough time sometimes to call that, but it's if your knee has to be down. I don't get that. Go to the college rule where it just has to be a supporting point on anywhere inside the outside circle, because you can tell what's going on there. Because if you're counting back points and you're looking for that knee, I don't know where your eyes are going, and it's tough. I don't know who was in the room when they made that rule.
No, but, that's a National Federation rule that I would bet a lot of money that it'll be changed next year.
And I know there's even referees in South Jersey have discrepancies, and I know I believe the guy Al Maloney is the head of the refs. He's having a rough time with his cadets and his wrestlers on the mat calling. His referees on the mat calling those type of deals. And it's just, I don't know what you do. You can't put 2 referees out there at a time, because they'll definitely contradict each other because they're not sure of the rules that we already have in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Brett, we mentioned it before. The PowerPoint cutoff is this weekend. I'm going to go through right here, and we're going to talk about the teams that are slated number 1 in each group. Let's start with Group 1. North 1, Emerson Park Ridge.
Stan the Man Woods.
That's right. North 2, Roselle Park. Central, Point Pleasant Beach. And in South Jersey, obviously, Paulsboro.
So I think it's going to be Paulsboro and Emerson Park Ridge, and I would give it to Paulsboro. Even though you do add a couple points in for Stan Wood's sweater, Paulsboro, I would say, for just consistency.
In Group 2, North 1, it would be High Point or Newton. In North 2, it'll be Hanover Park. These are just the 1 seeds. We'll go through the prognostications next week. In Central, it'll be Raritan. In South Jersey, it's kind of tough to tell. Point Pleasant Boroughs in the 1 spot there. You got Haddonfield. You got some teams in Burlington County. It's not the strongest year for South Jersey Group 2.
So they're not probably going to be a factor up at States. So they'll we'll see. But I would say it would be High Point and Hanover Park's group to take. And Hanover Park has had some rough luck, but they've also had some success in the Pine Belt Arena now. But it'll probably come down there. So
that's right, Toms River. Group 3, North Group. The North Group 1 is Sparta. It seems like North 2 would be Voorhees or Cranford. Central would be South Plainfield. South, I don't know, man. Delsey, I guess. Lacey, Gateway. Seems like Delsey
coming into
should
the
be
season,
back.
you would think Delsey, it would be Delsey. I believe it's going to be Delsey because I think by that time they're going to have their lineup in order, and Delsey has studs, and that's Group 3 up north. That's just Sparta. I remember when I coached at West Stafford. That's who we beat in the state finals, but I don't think they have anyone on it back from that team. That was in 2000.
Voorhees and Cranford.
Yeah, right there. It's going to be. We'll have to do some more research on that. I can't make a prediction.
We're gonna have to bring out the playoff book. In Group 4, North 1, Roxbury. North 2, Phillipsburg. Central, Long Branch, and in South Jersey, probably Clearview or Cherry Hill West.
Yeah, and they would look for PHILLIPSBURG to just dominate.
We thought originally maybe Highland would be there.
Yeah, but Highland's had some things going on with their lineup. I know Mr. Davidson's not there coaching anymore. But it's been a rough year for them. But, hey, this is what happens when you go to 5 groups. You don't know what the heck you're going to say.
That's right.
And I think it hurts the sport. And I can't say, I know I'm repeating myself. But hopefully maybe someone's watching and they're going to say, hey, he makes sense. Let's start to make sense here in the NJSIA.
Group 5, North 1, North Bergen. North 2, Watchung Hills. We talked about them. They're undefeated. Central, Hunterdon Central or Hal, that would be a dynamite sectional final. And in South Jersey Group 5, I listed 6 teams here. I don't know who it's going to be. You got Kingsway, Southern, Cherokee, Williamstown, RV, Eastern, Toms River North. That might be the most entertaining section in all New Jersey, that South Jersey Group 5.
I think it's between Kingsway, Cherokee, or Southern. Right now, if you had to hold a gun in my head, I would say Southern, because they're there, and I know Coach Stout will be there, and I know you're not supposed to wear jeans when you go to state tournament, but he likes to, so maybe give him a point for the jeans.
All right, we'll get out of here with this. Brett Lombardo asked former Coach Fetty, how you doing?
Hey,
man?
Brett, what's going on? I haven't been to McDonald's lately, Sam, but Brett Lombardo wrestled for me at Deffert, and his uncle was an All-American, NC State, wrestled at Paulsboro. His uncle was the state champ, Mike Lombardo at Paulsboro. And his dad was region finalist, Anthony Lombardo from Paulsboro.
How about
Brett
that?
went to Deffert.
Brett, thanks for tuning in. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you want to listen to this show, you can. If you prefer podcasts, you can go online and go to the iTunes store and find it. You can also go on the website that we have, thesfbn.com, to get everything else you need. Varsity Voice on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m., Facebook Live with Frankie Stokes. Don't miss that. Mondays at 7 p.m. 3 in the Key with Richie Bleiweiss, talking a little Pennsylvania basketball. And also 7 p.m. on Thursday, In the Paint with Nikki Jones. So a lot of good programming here. And Brett, if we're lucky, they're going to let us back next Tuesday.
Wow. The most impressive thing I think about this episode was that you remember all that stuff because you don't even have a teleprompter. That was impressive.
We're looking to get one. Everybody enjoy this week's wrestling.
We're going to do our due diligence and have some good predictions for groups. And we'll tell you what we think.
Yeah. It's crunch time. We got to be up to snuff.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoy your week. Hopefully see some good wrestling. For On the Mat, Mark Trible, Brett Fetty, presented by the Mat Pack. Thanks for watching.